This is Dennis Peacock with another edition of the Transforum. European democracy and trauma. President Obama seems to have some kind of a core need to establish a European-style democracy here in the United States. That's a strange thing to want to do, and what I want to talk about here briefly is, to some degree, the incompatibility of European democracy with the American ethic. Now, I don't know how many of you viewers have been to Europe. I've had the privilege of being there many, many times. The first time all the way back when I was just barely a teenager back in the mid-50s. And Europe then, of course, the effects of World War II, believe it or not, still more than a dozen years after that war came to a conclusion, were still evident, especially in Germany. I remember as a young kid walking down the streets of numbers of big cities, Munich in particular, and seeing just massive rubble and still piles of bricks. Europe went through a war, World War II, that traumatized them. Actually, two in a row, World War I and World War II, both within the space of 30 years, absolutely took all the steam out of those countries. And I'm not being critical. America, even in our Civil War days, never saw the level of destruction that Europe, especially Germany, suffered in those two wars. Now, they are preoccupied, the psyche, so to speak, of Europe, therefore became preoccupied with security and solidarity, community. They mutually want to make sure that there's no possibility of another conflict like that ever emerging on European soil. Now, the product of that kind of a demand for security, shared risk, interrelationship, it's got a lot of upsides to it. But the downside of it is that it produces a society that is essentially freezing the classes. That is to say, there's really little upward mobility. Now, the unions have basically taken the energy to see that happen by constantly pushing up wages, trying to create a larger middle class. But in the United States, our preoccupation is not with security, it's not with mutuality, it's with freedom and possibilities. America is the place that, as Don King, the fight promoter, used to say, only in America, only in America. In fact, President Obama is Exhibit A of somebody who rose from absolute poverty to the President of the United States. That's highly unlikely going to happen in Europe because the ethic is not that. In fact, it's ironic that this president, who is the epitome of that kind of upward mobility, would be wanting a system that makes it extremely difficult for that to take place. Well, European democracy comes with high levels of debt, value-added taxes, etc., and the recent bailout of Greece to the tune of $40 billion is just the beginning. There's more than a dozen of those European democracies waiting to go. Hey, what happened? They voted for Fabian socialism. That is, government ownership or government control of culture without the revolution, and they got it. They got security, but they basically froze themselves in the result. This is Dennis Peacock with another edition of the Transforum. I hope that this is educational and helping you understand reality. Take care.